Welcome everybody to another episode of What's NXT for December 19th, 2018. You're with the Rated R reviewer, Stephen Osborne, joined as always by the General Jerry Slaughter.
Good evening, wrestling fans.
So this was a pretty good episode and we are going to get into it. But first, welcome back, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Wow, it was a little weird and I had to throw together an episode last week with Noah, who graciously stepped in. Noah Foster, thank you, sir.
Handled the task perfectly.
But Jerry's back, and we are actually doing an episode this week. I told you guys last week, and I seriously thought that we were not going to be able to do an episode because I was working till 3 a.m. Fortunately for me, they found somebody to sub in that spot on third shift, so I don't have to pull 4 hours over, and we can do the show.
Yep.
So I'm excited.
Swerve.
And I was super excited for this match until I knew I had to work and couldn't watch. But we get Johnny Gargano versus Aleister Black in a steel cage match for the main event tonight, and I am pumped to rate this main event.
Yes, it was everything I was hoping it was going to be and more.
And more.
So, but that was their first match too.
It ended up being everything I predicted it was going to be.
Oh yeah, that's something a little different too. That's what I think. That's what threw me.
Yeah, it didn't throw me because I called it, but we will get into that. We start off the show just after a video recap to the build up to this cage match. We get a match. And it was a match that we were promised last week, and it's a tag match, women's tag match, Io Shirai and Dakota Kai, versus Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir.
In their debut match for NXT.
In their debut. Their debut.
Yep.
So, I was a little worried about this match going first, but if you're going to have the cage match between Gargano and Black as the main event at the end of the show, then this match definitely needs to be the other slice of bread on this sandwich and start off the show.
Well, like, figure even for TakeOver, you're assuming that like Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano was going to be pretty much like the main event at that point, because like the story had been built so much for it, or at least closer to the main event than the actual like War Games match. But then that ended up being the second match on the card, and we had Velveteen Dream and Tommaso Ciampa, and then the War Games match right afterwards.
Oh, don't get me started on that pay-per-view, because I could talk for 5 or 10 minutes now by myself about how much I love that NXT TakeOver pay-per-view. But
yes,
what surprised me about this was that we did not see Shayna Baszler come out with Duke and Shafir.
Yeah, that was kind of like weird, because you'd think almost like the Forgotten Sons, you at least have Jackson Riker out there, like
even if he's not doing anything.
Even if he's not doing anything, he's usually out there
just in case.
And with this whole camaraderie that's going on between the three of them, you would think that she'd be out there for the match, but she wasn't. So,
well, regardless, it was a good match. It was. I think it was not as good as I thought it was going to be, considering the hype that I've heard behind Duke and Shafir.
Yeah.
However, I think in their own way they did really look good, because they started off the match basically like a MMA striking battle.
Yes.
And they would just ground and pound on. It wasn't it was Dakota Kai, I think. Mm-hmm. They were just like punching the shit out of her.
Oh, they did a good job at isolating her a good majority of the match, pulling off a couple double team moves. I saw one that was like an arm drag combined with like a kick to the face, and that was one of the very few things I actually saw in the match that wasn't really, I won't say textbook, but it was really just not really meat and potatoes either. It was just a great debut for the two of them, and a good showing for Io Shirai and Dakota Kai, naturally. So.
Well, what I liked when you mentioned textbook, Marina Shafir puts on a Dragon Sleeper onto, I believe it's Dakota Kai.
Yeah, it was Dakota Kai.
Some point in this early in the match, and it was sort of textbook, but somehow she made it look like it hurt more.
Yeah.
She made it look like an MMA hold or something that's not so, I guess, textbook.
Yeah.
It doesn't look so put on. It's not a fake move.
Yeah.
It looks like she's really got her struggling in this headlock, and I'm suddenly a fan of them. Although I think the thing you told me you were surprised about was that their first match, their debut match, even as a tag team, was against Dakota Kai and Io Shirai, and you were wondering why they were going to take the fall.
Yeah.
Like, why not put them against a couple of jobbers, enhancement talent? And I'm like, yeah, find Killer Kelly out there somewhere and stick her in the ring.
We've had so many different people debut with just, debut or do their in-ring debut at least against like jobbers, like we get to see later on in the show, and but then you have, they should have had some sort of like enhancement talent to go against instead of like this white hot feud that they're already in. It seems like they're kind of already putting the kibosh on it, I think.
Moving to move them on to other things, maybe, or maybe this is just a match to get Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir some TV time, but then bring them back for even more training. You got them in the ring. People know they can wrestle now.
Yeah.
Now you work on them some more, and you don't have to put them in the ring again for another month and a half.
Yeah.
But this was not their match to have enhancement talent. They lost this match.
Yeah, that just still puzzles me. That's
they were the enhancement talent.
Yeah, like they've had such a build up, like you said, to them, and sure enough for them to lose their in-ring debut, that kind of takes away some of the steam from A, the feud, and B, from just any kind of momentum that they actually had started up.
You could make the argument that they got to pay their dues.
Yeah.
You could make that argument, sure, but shouldn't on the main roster, shouldn't Ronda Rousey have paid her dues?
Don't get me started on Ronda.
Not only did
Rousey.
she win her first match, but she hasn't lost a match yet. So there's different levels of credibility, I guess. But yeah, Marina Shafir and Jessamyn Duke, they lost their debut to Io Shirai, basically. Because she gets the hot tag, and she comes in like fire.
Yep.
Like a fucking bat out of hell. And she drops one of them with a running knee. She ends up doing this Meteora to, I think, Shafir. Shafir's seated in the corner.
Yeah.
She does this running...
Shafir takes almost all the punishment.
Yeah,
from
she's a good seller, too, so credit to her. She takes this running Meteora, and then I think she body slams her out of the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But how does she finish this match? She, Dakota Kai ends up kicking Jessamyn Duke off the apron because she's going to, like, I guess maybe knock her off the top rope.
Yeah.
But then she comes off with a moonsault.
Yep.
Just a moonsault. Great looking moonsault, but just a moonsault. But she gets the pin, and that's fine. I mean, it is their debut match. They came out of MMA, sure, and I'm sure they've got decent names there, but this is wrestling.
There's no post-match beatdown. There's nothing to even further anything. They just pretty much walked away.
There's
from
no
that.
shame in losing to Io Shirai.
No, there isn't.
Or Dakota Kai, for that matter.
Mm-mm.
But they worked her over pretty well throughout this match. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't very long, maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, they kept it pretty short.
So next we get a video package for the newly named Dominic Dijakovic.
Yes.
And so they've chosen to give him a first name, which maybe Donovan. I mean, if it had to start with a D, go ahead and make it Donovan. People know Donovan, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Dominic, and then just repronounce the last name so it doesn't have the word jack off in it, but it still has the word jack off in it.
Yeah.
Jakovic.
You know it's going to start being a chant at Full Sail University after a while.
So he's debuting, re-debuting, repackaging, whatever. He's going to wrestle next.
Yeah.
But of course, this is NXT, so when they say next, they don't really mean next.
There's always something else going on. We actually get a little bit of a recap from 2 weeks ago when Matt Riddle finished off Punishment Martinez and is heading back up the ramp and got his ass knocked out by Cassius Ohno.
Yeah, and this is just to set up what's next instead of again, not being the debut of Dijakovic, it is an interview with Matt Riddle. They're outside the arena, I guess, somewhere. And Matt Riddle is basically just nonplussed by Cassius Ohno. He's like, yeah, you had to get the advantage of getting me from behind, but when it was face to face, I knocked you out in what, 6 seconds?
7.
7 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So
says meet him in the ring this next week, and he'll do it again, knock him out in another 7 seconds. But they said he had stuff to go do.
Yeah, so he just excuses himself. Let me go.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so now we get at least he got an entrance. Let me just say that. At least he got an entrance and a name bar. We knew what his name was. We could write it down. We got Aaron Mack, as his trunk said, versus Dominic Dijakovic.
Pretty much everything about Aaron Mackey just screamed jobber.
he was so scared.
Yes.
From the onset of this match, he was scared of this guy, and as short of a match as it was
brutal.
Yeah, be scared of this guy.
Like what really got me about this match was the fact that he did give off kind of an Ivan Drago kind of vibe. He just came out there. He just okay.
No emotion, just serious from bell to bell, and I don't think I saw him pander to the crowd or do anything. Just no emotion. He's just there to beat this guy up.
He called for his finisher, and that was pretty much it. Otherwise, it was all just beating the living hell out of Aaron.
For 2.5 minutes, maybe.
Yes. But that was a long 2.5 minutes.
The first spot that wowed me, he does this. He says, "You ready to fly?" And I'm like, okay. And he's yelling at the jobber. I forget his name already. Aaron Mackey. He's yelling at Mac, "Are you ready to fly?" And he goes to pick him up in a suplex, vertical suplex, the most standard of all suplexes. And I'm like, wait, I think I know what he means. And I knew what he meant, but I didn't know to what extent.
Chucked him across the ring.
He's throwing vertical. Just turns around and throws him halfway across the ring. Oh my God. That was great.
Yeah, he almost ate the turnbuckle in the back of his head. That's how far he flew.
So. And then he just throws him up into the corner and mauls him for a minute. And then it's like basically, okay, this is the end of the match. He picks him up like he's gonna do a
fallaway slam.
But he drops him with just the most badass looking knee to his side, and then throws him around him to back there, and just didn't even look to see where he lands. Just serious toward the crowd. And then this sets up the finisher, which is a torture rack thrown out like a Death Valley driver, but he turns around and catches him with a knee to their face, like a go to sleep.
Yes. He calls it Feast Your Eyes, and
it looked amazing.
It looked phenomenal. I actually had to applaud. I'm glad we actually were rewound and watched it again, even though they showed it on instant replay. It was just a painful looking maneuver. I haven't seen I even say Kenta's or CM Punk's GTS. There's just a certain added viciousness.
There was so much whiplash to it.
Yes.
Like, Mac's head flew back so fast that I literally just paused there because I'm like, okay, this is where we get the pinfall.
But the cool thing I liked about it was the fact that Dominic actually twisted his body
to
kind of go with it too.
Because he didn't go for I don't think he went with the easy knee. The left knee would have been the easy one to bring, because it's right there next to his head.
Yeah.
He went for the difficult knee, so he spun himself around and caught him with the right.
That just shows A, lot of balance, B, a lot of torque, and C, just he was so graceful with it.
So I make fun. I make lots of fun.
Yes.
Because he's still jack off.
Yes.
But he looked great, and I am excited to see a real match between, let's say, him and Keith Lee.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Or him and
so somebody that's actually weighs more than 100 pounds.
Maybe Jackson Riker to get him started off with a real match. But yeah, I'm looking forward to him having a match that's more like 8 or 10 minutes.
I could actually see him doing a program after a bit, especially after Matt's done with Cassius Ohno. I can actually see him going after Matt Riddle, if anybody.
I don't like that because I don't want either one of them to lose to the other.
Yeah.
Not at this point. Maybe 2 or 3, 4 months down the road. But at this point, I am digging Jackofic.
Yeah.
So on we go to a video package of all things. Everybody gets one. And it fluctuates, man. Some weeks we don't get a lot of video packages, and I'm like, yeah, that was a great show. And even though we got a lot this week, they're still great. They're great video packages. This one's for heavy machinery.
They do solid video packages for everybody.
What I don't like about this episode and the video packages is they were all redundant.
Yes.
They were telling stories that were going to be told again later through a match or whatever.
Yeah.
And usually when we get a video package heavy episode of NXT, it's with a lot of storylines that we're not going to see in the ring play out on that show. It's keeping other plates spinning.
Yes.
Basically. This one is just doing video packages for the same plates. Because even though we get a video package for heavy machinery, we all turn around and get a match almost immediately after with heavy machinery. So I would have rather see maybe the Mighty or who's Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch get a video package in that spot instead.
Yeah.
Because heavy machinery got a squash match.
It was almost like watching the preview of a movie and then watching the movie right afterwards.
But here's the thing. It wasn't even completely original video package.
No.
Because the first half of it was essentially the one that we got on Raw and SmackDown for the soon-to-debut heavy machinery that are being called up out of our NXT and fucking shit up.
Yes.
Thank you, Vince McMahon, for trying to make Raw and SmackDown better, but you're doing it at the cost of a few storylines here on NXT, and we're not happy about it.
No.
And I guess this is a good enough time to go into this.
Yes, we do. We need to follow up with this right now.
So I apologize to those of you out there that only watch NXT and only watch, the What's NXT show that we do, but
all 4 of you.
Those of you out there that watch the WWE main product, Raw and SmackDown, you know that there are 6 superstars from NXT that are coming to Raw and SmackDown.
Yes.
And the first one we already knew about. We knew Lars Sullivan was on his way out the door. That's fine. Mm-hmm. He deserves to be on the main roster. That motherfucker. Because
Lars.
In NXT, if he's not healthy and winning the NXT championship within too much longer, it's going to look really bad because he's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
So put him on the main roster where there's other monsters to have him go against before he gets a title shot and has to win the title because he's a fucking freak. So we knew about Lars Sullivan, but we didn't know... Well, we sort of knew about Nikki Cross because she had already debuted on SmackDown, sort of, even if it was only going to be a one-off.
And kudos to her for getting the call up, but I still wanted to see her finish off with Bianca Belair.
Maybe there's a few weeks left of pre-tape television where we will get to see her and Bianca Belair finally. Maybe she loses to Bianca Belair, Bianca keeps her winning streak, and we see the graceful exit of Nikki Cross.
I doubt it with the Fatal 4-Way or the 4-Way match for number 1 contender.
That's right. I almost forgot about that during this show.
Yeah.
To the extent, and I'll go ahead and bring it up now, that we didn't get another women's match on this show, and I was talking last week with Noah about how I was going to be really disappointed if we got a tweet that said that the last participant in the Fatal 4-Way for the women's number 1 contendership was going to be announced via tweet again. I was going to be really upset.
Yeah.
Because we got the match for the 3rd contender last week. So I wanted a match for the 4th contender this week. And as it seemed, we got that match without realizing it, because since Io Shirai got the pinfall in the women's tag match from the opening of the show, she gets inserted as the 4th contender in the Fatal 4-Way for the number 1 contendership for the NXT Women's Championship.
And this is where the other thing that bothers us, because one of those participants is one of the ones getting called up.
Yes.
Miss Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans. And I'm cool. I'm going to watch Lacey Evans and enjoy her no matter what show she's on.
Pretty
but you're
much.
messing some stuff up here, man. So we've got Heavy Machinery that is basically trying to vie for the the NXT Tag Team Championships,
Yeah.
and at the end of the squash match reinforces that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're getting called up to the main roster, so obviously they're not winning that match.
No.
They could pull a swerve and do a win one week and then a loss the next or something, but it's really ruining some NXT TV, Vince. I think some people could have been saved as surprises, and maybe they still are. Maybe there's another half dozen call-ups that are being saved as surprises. These are just the ones to try and get you tuning in every week to see when they show up.
So we have the two females. We have the Heavy Machinery. We got Lars Sullivan. But then we have the Dark Horses. I'm going to go ahead and call him out of the whole thing. Because I initially thought he was going to get called up after he got attacked by the Undisputed Era and he's going to be off of TV. EC3.
Yep.
EC3's rolling up there.
His promo is so generic.
Yes.
It's weird because he's like stripping in his room, like I guess in his bedroom, and until you see that he's got wrestling tights on, you're like, okay, so he's got the cuffs. But then he starts taking off his pants, and you're like, okay, you could do a side shot, but no, straight in on the crotch as he's unzipping, and I'm like, man, for all intents and purposes, he's getting into his underwear, and they're just showing it, and then he smiles at the camera.
He's gonna be like that beefcake type guy, or maybe like even a narcissist Lex Luger.
Now look,
character.
at this point, EC3 is free to get called up without interrupting any storylines.
Yes.
He beat Bobby Fish, and there might have been a beatdown afterwards, but he was saved by Heavy Machinery, and he doesn't need to go forward with any feuds.
No.
Heavy Machinery, on the other hand, looks like they're about to vie for the Tag Team Championships. So, they could have been saved as a surprise, I think. I think Nikki Cross could have been saved as a surprise.
I think what I said a little while ago was the fact that I'm pretty sure Heavy Machinery is getting the call up because the War Raiders are injured. And they just need somebody right then, right there, and they need that powerhouse team, and that's what Heavy Machinery is.
What I meant to say, not Nikki Cross, but Lacey Evans should have been a surprise because she's in that Fatal 4-Way. Wait until after the Fatal 4-Way has happened before you announce that she's coming to the main roster.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Too
late now, though.
Yes. So we are getting them, we're losing them from our show, but we're gaining them on the main product. And I'm fine with all that.
And hopefully they get utilized properly and it's just not a big old waste.
I'm really hoping that there are more call-ups and there are just ones that they haven't told us about.
That's the thing, because we've already established, or you and I agree that the Street Profits are ready.
Yeah.
They have the right gimmick. They have the right connection with the crowd. They can just. I think they'll do what Crime Time wasn't able to do.
Well, I think I brought up the Street Profits with you because you had mentioned, like you said, the War Raiders can't be called up, so they're getting Heavy Machinery. And I'm like, nah, the War Raiders wouldn't have gotten called up yet. They haven't been around a year yet.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would have gotten called up over Heavy Machinery, nor
I think they probably would have just from the
Profits.
I think they probably would have just from the credibility that they had from coming out of Ring of Honor.
Maybe, but I don't know.
But even then, you would think the Undisputed Era would be like one of those top picks too. But at the same time, they're so big right now in NXT that it's impossible to move them right now.
Well, truth be told, you can't gut NXT. Please, WWE, don't gut NXT.
They're poaching their own product.
I guess, but and maybe it's necessary, but I don't think it's necessary. I think Vince McMahon could have done better storylines with the people he's got without calling up 6 people, 3 of whom are currently involved in future matches that we are assuming now the outcomes of. So that's my little beef with that. But before we get the Heavy Machinery match, and we'll get to the squash, because it had all the symptoms of a squash match going in, but we get a tweet from William Regal, and this is where he announces Io Shirai being the 4th contender for the NXT Women's #1 contendership.
So you have Mia Yim, Bianca Belair, Lacey Evans, and Io Shirai for a 4-way match for
They built up Io Shirai beating up Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir by herself when she saved Dakota Kai. What was it, last week or the week before?
Yeah.
So I think Io Shirai is the safe bet to win this Fatal 4-Way.
And she, like I said, she's the only one that's really either she's got that face value to her versus Mia Yim, who started off hot for like one match and then lost like that next week.
Yeah.
And then the Bianca Belair, who
Well, she won a match, I believe, last week to get into the.
Oh yeah, well, even then that just makes her all sorts of wishy-washy too. And I can't see her going against Shayna Baszler like at NXT Takeover. I can't see that. So.
Yeah, so I'm betting on Io Shirai, but that's just me.
Well, also I like the idea of Bianca being in the match or like getting a title shot, but not right now against Shayna Baszler.
Well, Shirai is easily the biggest babyface.
Yeah.
in the Fatal 4-Way, so
and
her going
and
against
that's
the
what
biggest
they need.
heel in.
They need that to promote the whole. It's like you took the belt from my friend, you injured my friend, whatever, and now I'm gonna make you pay for it.
Well, I am in hopes that Io Shirai gets it, she wins the belt, and Shayna Baszler gets called up to Raw. That's my hope.
That's highly possible.
Hopefully not to get, just completely flattened out like they have all the other NXT call-ups, but hopefully this is a new era, and we'll see what happens. In the meantime, finally we get the pre-main event, the third match on a 4-match card, which is, like I've said before, to me 4 matches is perfect for an hour-long show, especially when the main event gets 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Heavy Machinery versus, and forgive me if I get this wrong, because not only did they not even get an entrance, no music, they didn't get a title bar, nothing. They were just in the ring.
Their names got mentioned once each, I believe, and
it was hard to hear the first one.
It was hard to hear the first one because Nigel's voice kind of trails off during it. But we think we got the name Dwight Howell.
Dwight Howell, possibly, and then Danny DeCarto as his tag team partner. But these guys just got squish-squashed, man.
The two of them combined to even, measure up to Otis.
Tucker Knight grabs one of them in like a power slam hold, but just starts running him into the ring corner.
Back and forth.
I think he goes 6 or 7 or 8 times. Good grief. And I don't remember how he drops him, but they do that compactor where one of them's doing a power slam, like a world's strongest slam, but the other one comes off the ropes and jumps on their back into it.
Otis always holds him in position, and Tucker comes off the ropes onto his back.
So they get a compactor done on somebody, and pulls him out of the 3 count.
Yep.
Grabs the other guy, does a compactor to this sumbitch.
The reason they're doing this, though, is because the Undisputed Era have popped up on the top.
I forget to mention, just like we were saying, the tag belts. They come out with the tag belts on them, standing center.
Yeah.
And they're watching the match from up on the ramp. Or up on the stage, actually. They didn't even get on the ramp.
And that's when the squash match became an even squashier.
Because Dozovich picks up both of these motherfuckers. And they do a compactor to both of them, and he pins one on top of the other.
Yep. Or Tucker actually.
Tucker pins him because he's the legal man. But
yeah. But yeah, that just sets up for a fact that these guys can be wrestling in a match against each other, but it seems like we already know the outcome to it.
Yeah, pretty much. Or maybe they'll swerve us, but I doubt it.
But if they did that, that'd make them transitional champions, and that just doesn't seem right. Well, I'd rather them lose.
I don't think it's so bad if you're transitional. It's one thing to be transitional because you're a heel and you got to get it from this babyface team to this babyface team.
Yes.
That's bad. Okay. But at least you get the titles, right? In this case, not only do you get the titles before you leave, but it's transition because you're transitioning to the better show, to better money. And so getting the titles even briefly, even for 1 week before you head off to Raw or SmackDown, I think I'd be cool with it if I was Heavy Machinery. I'd be, yeah, sure, I'll do that. We'll drop them the same friggin' night, man. We'll open the show with a tag match, and we'll end the show with the mandatory rematch before Vince McMahon swoops in and says, or Shane McMahon swoops in and says, "Oh wait, that's antiquated. No more mandatory rematch."
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I like on the main roster. But I like the idea that you can have a rematch if it functions well with the story.
Yeah.
But the idea of having mandatory rematches, yeah, kind of stagnates the story some, because when you want to move on, you can't. You got to at least have a rematch, maybe on the next Raw, but now you got to wait a week to start your next story.
Speaking of rematches, though.
Speaking of rematches, now this is the main event.
Yes.
Worthy of the name, worthy of the 20 minutes it was given, and this match starts off in a way that I thought was brilliant, because it's given 20 minutes. We know this because I paused it before the match started, and they don't even... Okay, sorry. Do your thing, man.
First, we need to talk about this fucking cage. This cage is everything that a steel cage should be. It's just got this rattling that anytime anybody hits it or anything, it just rattles. And like the where usually you don't have anything to balance on top of the steel cage that they have on the main roster. You have at least a flat surface up there where you can dive off of, or you just fight on top of it. Granted, it's a little safer, but at the same time, it gives you so many more opportunities to do such crazy shit off the top of it. And then you have like just the structure of it. It's like you said, the cameras are picking up on everything on the inside of this cage too. So kudos for the cage. It's a wonderful, wonderful cage.
Yeah. So basically, my perspective was, we come out of like 3 minutes of commercials. WWE commercials, of course, promoting the network and the pay-per-views and blah, 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 fucking whatever. Like 3 minutes of it. Because there was 24 minutes left in the show, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be like a 22-minute match. No, 3 minutes of commercials. So we come out of this, and they open on the cage. And something inside me is like, why does this cage look more badass than the normal cage? There's something about it, and you start looking closer at it. The poles are not circular.
Oh.
They are square, and they fit up next to each other just right. The way that it might be a thinner wire that they use for the
mesh.
Yeah, but you can see through it better. And like he mentioned, at the top of it, there's now this T-bar, this flat surface that they can actually stand on. I don't think they used it so much in this match. They only sat the way you normally would.
Yeah.
And it just, maybe it's because it didn't have the ring around the top of it that normally comes with a WWE cage, because they get lowered from the ceiling. This one apparently got built structurally wise the way that the old ones would, the ones with the big square holes, where they'd bring one panel at a time and slowly put them together. And I've seen some pay-per-views where you had to sit through quite a bit of that during promos and whatnot.
It seemed like the cage was getting lower and lower, and then like by the time you're even done with the promos or whatnot, you still have the ring crew on the outside, like, you know, tying everything down and running off afterwards.
Well, of course, what's good about this is it's pre-taped.
Yeah.
So you can completely delete all the ring setup.
Yeah.
You can just have enough commercials and promos and vignettes and whatnot.
Boom! It just came out of the ground.
It took a minute. When really it probably took 15. They just cut out 10 minutes of that. So this match was awesome.
Yes.
It told a great story, starting from just after Aleister Black's entrance, his incredible,
phenomenal
awesome entrance that would be probably up there with The Undertaker back before The Undertaker's entrance was actually iconic.
Yeah.
Before it gave you goosebumps just hearing the ring of the bell, because you knew it was coming.
I get goosebumps on his entrance, because like it has that cryptic feel to it. You know he's gonna be popping up out of that smoke like any second. It's like, you know, winding up a Jack in the Box.
But it's also sense memory. That the sound of that bell, the lightning cracking just at that one spot. You know, the way that his entrance seems to always go. That 5 minute, perfectly timed, to the music or to the lightning or to the whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done it so much that it takes you back to other times that you've seen that, especially WrestleManias. So it's iconic.
Yeah.
But Aleister Black is up there. Like,
Yeah.
if you'd have compared his to The Undertaker's maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, before it was an iconic entrance, I would say Aleister Black's beats it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just so cool and spooky.
Yep.
Fucking spooky. So he gets down to the ring, and before he can actually enter the cage, Johnny Gargano doesn't even get an entrance.
No.
He's there. He pulls his feet out from under him, and fucking, they're going to brawl outside the cage. This is what I loved. How do you kill a few minutes of a match that's secured in a ring so you can't get out? You know, you're secured between the cage. How do you lengthen this into a 20-minute match that's going to stay intriguing and not get stale?
Shades of the Hell in a Cell with the Mankind versus Undertaker. Because first thing Mankind did was he climbed up on the top there and had the Undertaker come up after him.
Yep.
So that's the way you do it. You keep some of the action on the outside, then bring it onto the inside, and then just have your match in there, or tell the rest of the story in there. And that's exactly what happened. So.
Well, we finally get in the ring, and the match starts officially, and it's kind of just a brawl.
Yep.
I mean, as best as I can describe it. I mean, of course, Aleister Black's a traditional striker, and he's really good at it, and he just wants to beat up Johnny Gargano because he's mad.
Yep.
He has no reason to fight this match except that he's mad.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I said this during TakeOver, I would have been happy with the feud ending right there, because that was just a perfect picture perfect ending.
Yeah, he got his revenge.
Yes, but then Gargano just wasn't done, and Ciampa, he just, decided he was gonna poke the bear and get the two into the steel cage match, and I am so grateful for it, because we got to see a lot of strikes out of Aleister Black naturally, and then we got to see Gargano show a little bit of viciousness as well, which
to counter the striking.
Oh yeah, which with him now, he's embracing more of his dark side, as he keeps on calling it, and there's just parts of this match where he just seemed like he was pretty sinister, and couple things. Let's see.
Well, while you're thinking about that,
Yeah.
what we saw out of Black at the TakeOver match was him getting his revenge. He was very methodical, very focused. He didn't lose any of his shit,
No.
He got
I
countered.
thought he was going to.
And he got countered, and he was on the defensive end at some points in the match, but he was always focused on getting his revenge and getting the win. In this match, he was just pissed.
Mm-hmm.
He was pissed that Johnny Gargano got him in the cage because he pissed him off.
Yeah.
And you saw him not be so focused and methodical. He was just kicking ass. And Johnny ends up getting quite a bit more offense than I thought he would. I thought Black was just going to take him into the cage and leave him there.
No. I can already tell that the match is going to be back and forth for a good majority of it. But Aleister Black, yeah, he controlled a good portion of the first part of the match, but then
most of that was due to Aleister Black. Oh, he does this spot. It's moonsault, a standing moonsault off the corner, off the top rope. Lands. Johnny Gargano is standing, so he lands, catching Gargano sort of in the head, and he lands on his feet, but his knee kind of gives.
Well, he lands on both of his knees was the thing, and I think that's what jarred it a little bit.
Yeah, but he starts selling his left knee, and this is where Johnny Gargano can get the upper hand.
Yeah.
So we see Aleister, I think he goes to climb out, or maybe Gargano's going to climb out, but they're kind of both next to each other on the cage.
Yep.
And Gargano does this cartwheel.
Yep.
Into a
sunset flip powerbomb.
Yeah. And the crowd goes nuts for this. Because it lays out Black, but it's like it blacks him out because he's sitting up, but he's dead to the world.
Yep. And then he just plops onto his face. But yeah, it was. That's one of those moments where I actually had to scream "Holy shit!" myself, and Stefan's like, "What happened?" I looked away for like a second.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It was
literally half a second, and I look back, and it's done. I'm like,
that's how crisp and flowing it was, and how beautifully it was executed.
I call it the flippy spinny powerbomb off the top rope.
The flippy spinny shit.
I knew once I read that I'd know exactly how to describe it, but next the next spot that we get that's really important, they need to set up the idea of escaping the cage through the door. So Johnny Gargano is on the apron in between the ropes and the cage, and Aleister Black is running in for these kicks to the face.
Yep.
Just into the cage. Just so brutal looking. He gets 2 of them off while Gargano is standing, but then Gargano falls kind of leftward, sideways towards the door, and he's kind of leaning, and for some dumbass reason, Aleister Black goes to kick him in the face into the door like he's going to kick him out. And I'm like, that's just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And he nearly does kick him out the door. So this is where Gargano starts selling that he's going to crawl out the door to safety. And Black immediately is on his leg, trying to pull him back in. And at one point, Gargano's even got the handle hold of the stairs,
yep,
of the steps, trying to get himself out. But eventually he gets pulled back in because we still got 10 more minutes in this match.
Well, he tries the first time and he fails, but then he nails Black with enziguri and goes for a while second time and tries to roll, but get back out there, but he can't.
So another spot, sort of not really off the top rope, but Black goes for a springboard off the middle rope, and Gargano jumps on the second rope with him into a side Russian leg sweep, rolls right through the side Russian leg sweep off of the middle rope into our Gargano escape.
Yes.
And this is where we take up, and I called it right when he put it on. I'm like, yep, this is going to eat 2 minutes out of the match. And sure enough, it did. There was a couple of points where Aleister Black almost reversed it. Like, he picks him up. He picks up Johnny.
Like a wee baby.
And goes to, slam him into the cage. And it doesn't work. Johnny kind of bounces back off and pulls Black back down into the Gargano escape. And this was great because there's nowhere Black can go. The ropes aren't going to help. There's only power out of this or tap. And I don't think Black is the kind of guy that would tap. He'd sooner pass out.
Yeah.
So, let's see. There's so many notes. Okay, so Johnny Gargano I think he catches Black up on the top rope.
Yes.
And he goes for what looked to me like a cutter, an RKO.
It looked like he was going to be a swinging neck breaker to me.
Goes to do this off the top rope, but Black hangs on. And Johnny just jumps into the middle of the ring, back first. And then this is where Black takes over, and we get this diving Meteora off the top rope. And then a bridging German.
Yep.
Near fall out of this. And then this is where Johnny takes over, because he counters a Black Mask. Well, the Black Mask setup.
Yeah.
This is where Aleister Black picks the dude up by his chin with his foot. He counters that by swinging Black's leg into the ropes, through the middle to top rope spot. He gets caught up in the middle rope, and he just starts wailing on his leg. And then super kicks him from that prone position.
Yep.
And this is just crazy. Oh, so many notes. Picks him up, lawn darts Black into the middle turnbuckle. Picks him up again, lawn darts him into the cage. And not the soft part of the cage, the one with the give. No. No, he puts him into the fucking pole. And not the soft, just the flat surface of these square poles.
And like I said, the rattling of that cage is it made the move even that much more vicious. So
we are down to the finale of this cage match, where basically Johnny Gargano assumes the role that Aleister Black took in their last match.
Yep.
And he is here to absolve himself of his sins, or absolve Aleister?
Absolve Aleister, because he still believes Aleister is the evildoer in this whole feud.
Now, at first, I thought he was going to steal the Black Mask, finisher stealer. That's always my favorite finishing move to give my character on a WWE game. One of them is at least got to be steal a finisher so you can take everybody's finisher. But I thought he was going to steal the Black Mask, but no, he sets up for a super kick, but he gets caught. And it's the worst of reversals because he catches a Black Mask for his efforts.
Yes.
But I guess the Black Mask took as much out of Aleister Black as it did Johnny Gargano, because Johnny Gargano actually basically gets up first.
That's what the announcers were saying, is the fact that Johnny Gargano is probably the first person they've ever seen that actually recover from the Black Mask quicker than Aleister did, or actually was able to respond, because he starts actually getting up the climbing up the cage. I'm like, I can't even imagine, saying my own name after a kick like that. But sure enough.
So the staging of this is perfect, because you've got the heel rolled Johnny Gargano, who would rather go through the door, take the easy way out, but the Aleister Black is between him and the door, so he can't go that way. But he gets up first. He's got the advantage. He starts climbing the cage. Aleister Black has no idea that Johnny Gargano is climbing the cage. He probably thinks that he's still knocked out cold from the Black Mask, but he's got his opportunity. He sees that he's so close to the door that the ref has opened the door. Yep. So he starts crawling, and now it's a race.
Gargano's almost halfway down the other side of the cage.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense. Once you're at the top and you're at a reasonable level, you just drop. You don't climb down the cage. You would have won this match, right? So you just drop. But he's about halfway climbed down the outside of the cage when Aleister Black is about to pull himself out to the ground. And what did I call? I called it. I knew it was going to happen.
The door goes swinging into Black's face, courtesy of the champ himself, Tommaso Ciampa.
Perfect camera angle. Just enough of the door so you think maybe there's nothing shenanigan-wise going on with the door, but not enough for you not to see Tommaso Ciampa run down, grab the door, and swing it into Aleister Black's face.
And right when that connected, though, it's the first thing I noticed was the fact that Gargano stopped.
Yep.
And he
saw it happen.
He saw it happen, and he stopped.
Could not believe that Tommaso Ciampa was helping him win a match. Makes sense to me. I mean, because Tommaso Ciampa has got a title defense against Aleister Black. Do as much damage as possible, right? But I don't think Tommaso Ciampa expected the outcome that we got.
No.
I certainly wouldn't have expected it. Johnny Gargano turns around.
And goes back into the ring.
Climbs the cage, comes back down, and he doesn't really confront Tommaso Ciampa, although he looks puzzled as fuck.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not sure about this, because if you're that puzzled about what's going on, why not just drop to the mat? Or to the outside.
I think it was more the fact that he was resisting pretty much any kind of help from Ciampa.
Do it on your own.
Doing it his own.
The part of him that's still babyface.
Or we're just going to say, do it yourself.
Yeah. So we get Tommaso Ciampa by the door. Like I said, staging was everything. We've got Johnny Gargano on the opposite side of the ring in the corner, and we've got Aleister Black slowly making his way to his knees in the middle.
Yep.
And Gargano and Ciampa are looking at each other, and Ciampa does this. It's a signal for, hey, we're a tag team.
Yeah.
I guess it's something that they did. I've only seen like 3 or 4 DIY matches, and they were all mostly, 3 years ago, something like that. So, sorry, but you could tell that it was something that they probably did as DIY. Even the crowd starts chanting DIY.
Yep. And Gargano looks hesitant naturally, but then he does his own hand motions and whatnot, which I'm guessing was like the whole.
He's confirmed that we're about to do this, and what are they about to do? They're about to meet in the middle, because like I said, staging is everything. So I think Gargano comes off with a super kick, while Ciampa comes off with a running knee to Aleister Black's back.
Yep.
And was that enough to put out Aleister Black? You goddamn right that was enough to put out.
Yes, it was.
Johnny Gargano stood there for like 10 seconds looking completely dumbfounded, completely confused about this, as Tommaso Ciampa just exits the cage, shuts the door calmly.
I don't think it was confusion. I think it was conflict. Because, like, he keeps on saying, like, how he's embracing this dark side and everything, but then there's also this one that's, like, still a competitor and still believes that he's morally right in this whole thing, so he had this whole morality issue.
He's got these dueling personalities.
Yes.
The baby face that made him get back in the ring so he could win the match on his own was defeated by the heel in him that agreed to do the tag team move with Tommaso Ciampa, so
Precisely.
he gets the pinfall victory. Which he does. He gets the pinfall victory.
That was a whole story in itself right there. It's the fact that, like, as much as Aleister Black was his opponent, he was more or less at odds with himself almost the entire match. Like, somewhere in between trying to have a clean-cut, awesome match and then just underhanded, dirty tactics to just end Black's, like, momentum or anything else pointing to the title match.
So now that Johnny Gargano gets the win over Aleister Black in a high-profile main event match on NXT television,
Mm-hmm.
God help us, this is what I feared, but it begs the question, is it now going to end up being a triple threat match for the NXT Championship?
There's always that possibility, and it's actually looking like it'll be the case. It wouldn't shock me if Regal shows up next week or tweets next week that he'll show up, because that's a pretty momentous announcement to make.
One of these feuds needs to end. Either Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano versus Aleister Black, or Aleister Black versus Tommaso Ciampa. One of these feuds needs to end. And a triple threat match does not do that.
It kind of does. Because at least with the triple threat match, there's no disqualification.
And there's one loser and blah, blah, blah. But traditionally, triple threat matches are just like the middle match. They don't end a feud. Because you've got the feud between this guy and this guy, but you throw in this guy just to have this other match instead of another one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, it begs the question, do you now insert Johnny Gargano into the NXT Championship match?
Like we established, there has to be a rubber match between the two, and I think they'll save that for when one of those two get a call-up. But I think the triple threat match is a high possibility at this point.
I really hope not. So anyway, that brings us to the end of the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And around these parts, we rate the main event of NXT with the General's 5-star rating system. And Mr. Jerry Slaughter, out of 5 stars, where do you put this match? I'm sorry, this main event, because it's more than just the match.
Oh, yeah, this is at least 4.5 on my book this time. Because as much as I was already, I won't say I was done with the feud with Gargano and Black, I thought the ending for that was just, the first match was beautiful. The second match just added even more to that. This was like the Empire Strikes Back, if you will. Because this had such a downer ending. You had DIY more or less reforming for like that 30 seconds, but you also had Gargano pulling off the win on Black, which begs the question, will there be another match between the two, or will there be a triple threat match at TakeOver? There's so many different possibilities at this point, and it's still keeping the feud fresh. This is the kind of storyline and feuds that like WWE needs to be actually working towards or working with. Matches that take place more in the ring than it does with a whole bunch of talking and a whole bunch of, outside interference or whatever else. And it was just beautiful. Everything about the match was just, it was a clinic for anything that should be done in a steel cage match this day and age. The steel cage itself was a character, I believe.
Oh God, it was great.
It was the steel cage is
so
just
much
wonderful.
better than the normal steel cage.
Yes. So you had your
ways.
story outside the cage, you had your story inside the cage.
You had the story with the cage.
You had your story with the cage. You had a whole bunch of story. Usually I give you grief for how much you talk about stories, but I could totally tell a story in this one.
7 stories going on in this match. So I'm going to agree with you to ultimately disagree with you, and I'm going to have a first on this show, I believe. So I want to agree with you that the match in and of itself, easily 4.5 stars.
Yes.
Easily 4.5 stars in and of itself. Combine that with all the stories it told, everything that developed, and I want to take off a quarter of a point or a quarter of a star for the fact that it might lead to a triple threat match for the NXT Championship. but I would just as easily add back that quarter star coming off of a great show.
Yes.
You know, when it's a great show, I tend to add a quarter star just because I think that should count for something for how you feel going into the main event.
Mm-hmm.
5 stars.
But you're gonna give
Five.
it five stars?
The first 5-star rating on What's NXT actually comes from this guy with 2 thumbs. I give it a 5-star. To me, this was something that could not have been any better than it was.
No. This was takeover quality match right here. This could very well been a main event.
This might have been opening or second match on NXT Takeover match.
Yeah.
But everything with it, the story and just the beginning of the match before the bell even rung, you know, getting some of that aggression and that wasting some time outside of the ring to fill that 20 minutes so things don't get boring and stale in the ring. Just perfect. To me, this was the perfect main event for any NXT show, let alone a takeover.
Pretty much.
So I give it 5 stars. First ever, I'm going to put it in the books now. So that brings us to the end of What's NXT. And so we want to thank you very much for joining us. As always, we will be here tomorrow for NXT UK and having our NXT party.
Yep.
I should be getting off at 11 like I have the last 2 days. So, and next week I want to announce that we're going to be able to, we're both going to have off. So we're actually going to be able to watch the show when it airs at 7 o'clock, do the show right after, get it up on YouTube, possibly on Wednesday.
Yep.
If Boss Man is still up. We might actually have What's NXT up on Wednesday and probably NXT Party up on Thursday. So a whole day early for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Probably still going to be a 2-episoder. We already know that tomorrow will be a 2-episode of NXT UK.
It's going to be a long one.
I know it's going to be an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, easy, just because it's so hard to review one episode an hour long, less than 35 or 45 minutes. It's just so difficult because...
And you have notes from
such a good... There's such good shows on the regular.
Yeah.
And it's hard... I mean, the bad shows, it's easy to tell. 35-minute review, that's including intro, outro, plugs, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But a good show, easily 45 minutes apiece. So we want to thank you ahead of time for joining us for the NXT party tomorrow. I honestly don't know if we're going to have a guest. I didn't expect to have the night off, or, well, you know, the evening after work off.
Mm-hmm.
So we will try to get a guest for tomorrow, but if not, there will surely be myself and Jerry. So we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. And if you want to be on the NXT party and be one of our guests on, well, it's the smaller screen, but you can contact me on Twitter. Just go to nodq.com/Stefan. That's STEFAN. Or if you just want to log on to Twitter and find me, it's Stefan R. Osborne, OSBORNE. Just send me a DM. Let me know your Skype information and your availability, and we will try and get you on the show. Or if you want, you can just...
No DQ General at Twitter. And also, I have my Facebook group, Armbar, capital ARMBAR, exclamation point. And go ahead and just add it. He probably get added into the group.
Yeah, just find the General if you prefer him over me, and he'll get you on. He'll get you on the show too. But otherwise, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We want to thank you for joining us tomorrow. We will be here a day early on both shows, hopefully next week. So we want to thank you for joining us then. And of course, I am the Rated R reviewer, Stefan Osborne. This guy right here is the General, Jerry Slaughter. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you NXT time.